efficiency, strengthening trust, and positioning our market for greater global competitiveness. As we continue this journey, collaboration remains key. So thank you all for being here, for lending your voice, and for your partnership in shaping this next phase of our market evolution. Before we get started, just a quick bit of housekeeping. Apart from our speakers, everyone will remain on mute during the presentations to avoid any background noise. Please make use of the Q&A box for your comments and questions as we go along. We'll take them during the interactive session later on. Today's session is being recorded and streamed live on the CSES YouTube channel, and the recording will also be available afterwards. This webinar will run until 12 noon. Your feedback is very important to us. And at the end of the session, a short survey link will be shared. Please take a few moments to complete it. Now, just to give you a sense of how today's session will flow, we'll begin with a welcome address, followed by an opening and special remarks from key market leaders. Then we'll move into industry perspectives, where representatives from our trade associations will share insights, followed by a technical overview, and finally, we'll wrap up with the Q&A session. So please stay engaged, share your thoughts and questions in the Q&A box as we go along. And once again, welcome to today's session. Now, let's officially begin our session. To set the tone for today's discussion, we'll start with a welcome address. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Jalo Waziri, the MD CEO of CSES PLC, to deliver the welcome remarks. Over to you, Mr. Jalo.
Thank you, Azumi. Thank you, Safina, for participating, first of all, and also for being one of the leaders in the market in ensuring that this particular project is being achieved, and also the process in which we are trying to achieve it is also being followed vigorously. I don't have an opening speech. I will just ad-lib in terms of my perspective as to why we are here and what we're doing. But before I do that, I'd want to, first of all, welcome our amiable DG, Dr. Emomotimi Agama. I will try and not be like our chairman of NGX who struggled with their name yesterday. The GMD CEO of the NGX group, who also happens to be the chairman of CSCS, and all of the industry leaders, panelists who are going to be participating today. The journey to a T+2, subsequently T+1, did not start today. It started probably when CSCS was formed 26 years ago, with the objective of ensuring that it takes away the risk of settlement in the market. I remember back in the day when I was at the exchange, my first time at the exchange in the early 90s, settlement was done on Friday. And all the brokers would gather on the 8th floor and then exchange checks after trade. The issue was some brokers who probably had liability, if they didn't show up, that means the counterparty was not settled, which meant that there was exposure at that point. Or where a broker has decided that he is up-country and issues an up-country check. As you know, up-country checks used to take 21 days to clear. That brought a lot of risk in the market, and CSCS was actually formed initially to eliminate that risk. I think we started at T+5, and then subsequently went to T+3. I've always been an advocate of T+1 and possibly T+0. And I always use this example with my son. I asked him, why are you not participating in our market? He said, Dad, it takes me 3 days to buy your instruments, and it takes me another 3 days to settle. In Amazon, I can order in the morning, get in the afternoon. If I don't like it, I return it, and my money is returned within the following day. And he says that we have to also adopt, generally capital markets globally have to adopt that particular perspective of instant settlement, instant payment. I'm not even talking about atomic. Now, there are exigencies that don't allow that to happen immediately, including systems, processes, cross-country currency exchanges, time zones, and all of that, that is not allowing it to happen instantly. However, with the leadership that we have in the capital market, especially with Dr. Agama and our chairman, and probably people sitting down in this room, they've seen a quick reason as to why we should shorten the transaction cycle.
Sorry, Jalo, we can't hear you. We can't hear you again, Jalo. Sorry, I think Jalo is having a bit of network
Step
issue.
behind us.
We can't
I'm
hear.
sure that this has happened. And also the leadership of the SEC, when we first brought it to him, he says, when do you want to do it? I want it to be done now. And so that tells you the eagerness and the extent of, drive that everybody wants to get this thing achieved. So we want to thank Dr. Agama and his team in helping us do that, especially Mrs. Bukulufai. I'm sure she's probably somewhere here who had participated extensively in this as well. And the whole committee, headed by our own Onome Komolafe, with all of the participants that have done it. So thank you very much. This particular event is not for me to make long speeches, even though it appears I'm doing one. I think the panel will do justice to it and also, ensure that all of the things are happening. So thank you very much, everyone. You're welcome to this particular session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jalo, for that warm and inspiring opening, and also for setting to the tone for today's discussion. And now we'll take opening remarks from Mr. Temi Popola, the chairman of CSES PLC. Please, Temi, you have the floor. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Safina, and thank you, CEO, for your remarks. Distinguished guests, regulators, all our market operators here present, representatives of trade associations, and all participants joining us this morning. Good morning. On behalf of the board and the management of CSES, I am extremely delighted to welcome you all to this important roundtable discussion focused on ensuring stakeholder readiness for the transition to a T+2 settlement cycle. Today's event is not just another event. It represents a very critical milestone in the collective journey of our capital markets towards enhanced efficiency, global competitiveness, and investor confidence. Allow me to recognize and appreciate our apex regulator, ably led by Dr. Imomotimi Agama, the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Mr. Sam Onukwe, the Chairman of the Association of Securities Dealing Houses of Nigeria, ASHAN, and Mr. Sheyi Owotoro, the President and Chairman of the Institute of Capital Market Registrars. Your continued leadership and partnership strengthen the foundation of our market as we embark on this transition. I also want to acknowledge our CEO, our indefatigable CEO, Mr. Jalo Waziri, and his team for the strong leadership and the lead that they have taken, working with all stakeholders on this very important milestone. As you're aware, and as the CEO just said, the SEC formally approved the transition to a T+2 settlement cycle earlier this year in April 2025. This decision signals Nigeria's alignment with leading global markets, and it reinforces the regulator's commitment to deepening market efficiency. This is probably not occur in isolation. It does reflect a collective confidence in the systems, the institutions, and the stakeholders that make up our market infrastructure. At this point, allow me to commend very, very significantly the foresight and the diligence of the steering committee of the T+2 settlement. They've worked tirelessly to coordinate implementation efforts. This committee comprises representatives from the SEC, the exchanges, the CSES, and key trade associations across our capital markets. And they have been instrumental in developing the frameworks, in conducting operational tests, and addressing early challenges that underpin today's conversations. By moving from T+3 to T+2, our country, Nigeria, positions itself more competitively among global peers. We signal to the world that our market is modern, it is agile, and it is ready to meet international standards. This change will shorten the window between trade execution and trade settlement. It would reduce counterparty exposure. It would enhance capital market turnover, and it will strengthen investor confidence. At CSCS, we have invested significantly in ensuring technical and operational readiness. Our clearing, settlement, custody, and reporting systems have undergone rigorous stress testing under very high transaction volumes and exception conditions. We're very confident in our capacity to operate within a T+2 framework, backed by robust redundancy, reconciliation protocols, and fallback mechanisms. However, successful implementation cannot rest on technology alone. True readiness requires collaboration across every segment of the value chain, including our brokers, our custodians, registrars, our fund managers, and all our back office systems. They must all align on process adjustments, on liquidity planning, and contingency preparedness. This is where the role of our trade associations becomes very pivotal. You are the bridge between policy and practice. You must ensure that your members understand the operational realities of T+2, from workflow changes to cash management adjustments. I encourage you to please coordinate trainings, conduct mock settlement runs, and escalate potential bottlenecks early. The success of this transition will depend on the strength of our weakest link, so no firm should be left behind, and indeed no firm will be left behind. As we approach the 28th November go-live date, it is essential that firms pay attention to liquidity cycles, that they complete necessary system upgrades, and strengthen contingency planning for settlement fails, for holiday mismatches, and for reconciliation breaks. Beyond systems and structures, people readiness is equally critical. Teams across trading, operations, risk, and compliance must internalize new processes and execute with precision and with agility. As the central counterparty of the Nigerian capital market, CSCS remains deeply committed to fostering market stability, efficiency, and transparency. We will continue to work closely with the SEC, with the exchanges, and with all trade associations to ensure that this transition is seamless, it is collaborative, and beneficial for all stakeholders. May I encourage you, please, to let this roundtable serve as both a progress checkpoint and also a call to action, to double down on our readiness, to communicate openly, to collaborate actively, and to maintain the spirit of partnership that defines our market and that got us this far. Once again, I want to thank the Securities and Exchange Commission for its leadership. I want to thank the Steering Committee for its coordination, and all our trade associations and partners for their unwavering commitment. I am confident that through our collective efforts and our shared resolve, Nigeria's capital market will not only achieve a smooth transition to T+2, but also will set a new benchmark for post-trade excellence across Africa. Thank you, and I wish us all a productive and engaging session. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony, for those thoughtful and motivating remarks. I particularly liked your point about collaboration being the cornerstone of this transition. Truly insightful. Up next, we'll take special remarks from Dr. Agama, Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, whose leadership has been instrumental in guiding the market towards readiness for T+2. Over to you, Dr. Agama. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for having me this morning. Particular regards goes to the chairman of the CSCS board and the GMD of the NGS Group PLC. Also to Mr. Jalo Waziri, that has led this initiative with such vigor and tenacity. I do appreciate that. And more importantly, to other members of our community, the financial market infrastructure community. It is so important and critical to note that without adequate structure, without strong structures, certainly the packs will fall. And so it is very important for us at the SEC being pivotally prepared for these sessions, as you will all recognize that a graduation from T+3 even on to T+0 is part of our Capital Market Master Plan 2015 to 2025. And indeed, here we are at the culmination of that Capital Market Master Plan journey. We are finally, exercising our interests and thoughts to moving from T+3 to T+2, subsequently T+1, and then T+0. So it speaks to why I'm excited that we are actually doing this and we have actually arrived. Yes, we've given a date and there's no going back. So it is my distinct pleasure to welcome you all to this very critical roundtable discussion. I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to the leaders of our various trade associations for your presence and, more importantly, for your partnership. We certainly cannot do it alone, not unless we join hands together to do it together and make sure we all enjoy the results. Your membership constitutes the very engine of our capital market, and your collaboration is actually indispensable for the journey we are about to undertake. We're gathered here today for a single transformative purpose: to ensure a seamless and successful transition to a T+2 settlement cycle. This engagement aligns with the Commission's ongoing efforts to strengthen post-trade efficiency, enhance market integrity, and implement the reforms envisaged under the Investment and Securities Act 2007, the Capital Market Master Plan, and indeed the new ISA 2025. It also reflects our commitment to ensuring that Nigeria's capital market remains globally competitive, resilient, and responsive to the needs of investors and issuers alike. The global financial landscape is not static. It is in a constant state of evolution, driven by technological innovation, investor demand for efficiency, and the relentless pursuit of systemic resilience. The migration from T+3 to T+2 and increasingly to T+1 and then T+0 in some jurisdictions is not merely a technical adjustment. It is a strategic imperative. A shorter system settlement cycle is a hallmark of a mature, dynamic, and competitive market. It directly addresses several key objectives. First being risk reduction. It significantly reduces counterparty risk and market exposure. The less time between trade execution and final settlement, the lower the potential for a default to ripple through the system. Enhanced liquidity. It boosts market liquidity by returning capital to investors more quickly, allowing for its deployment and fostering greater market activity. Global alignment. It aligns our market with international best practices, enhancing our attractiveness to foreign investment and reinforcing Nigeria's position as a key player in the global financial arena. Investor confidence. Ultimately, a more efficient, safer settlement system strengthens the bedrock of our market confidence. While the vision is clear, the path to its realization is paved with intricate details and requires synchronized efforts. The transition to T+2 is not a task for the Commission alone, or for trading platforms, or the central securities depository systems in isolation. It is a shared responsibility. At this point, I want to thank my team members from the SEC for their doggedness and their active participation in making sure this comes to light. This is where you are. This is where you are. Our esteemed trade associations play a pivotal role. You are the vital link between policy and practice. You represent the brokers, the custodians, the institutional investors, the individual investors who feel the direct impact of this change. Our financial market infrastructures, such as the Nigerian Exchange Limited and the CSCS and other financial market infrastructure, remain at the core of this reform. Their operational readiness, coordination, and interoperability will be central to ensuring a smooth transition. Your readiness and the readiness of your members is the single most important determinant of our success. This means ensuring that back office operations are recalibrated, technology systems are upgraded and tested, settlement processes are streamlined, and most importantly, that every market participant, from the largest institution to the retail investor, is informed and educated and indeed prepared. Therefore, we have not gathered here today simply to inform you of a decision. We are here today to listen, to collaborate, and to co-create the implementation roadmap. A critical part of readiness is communication. The Commission, working with trade associations, will intensify investor education and awareness campaigns to ensure that all stakeholders understand the implications and benefits of this transformative change. This roundtable is a platform for us to do things, identify potential bottlenecks, and operationalize challenges from your unique perspectives. Share best practices and insights on change management. Align on a clear, phased, and realistic timeline for the transition. Develop a robust communication strategy to ensure no stakeholder is left behind. Your candid feedback, your expertise, and your commitment are resources we need to draw upon. In conclusion, therefore, the move to T+3 is a necessary leap forward for the Nigerian capital market. It is a testament to our collective ambition to build a market that is not only efficient and resilient, but also future-ready. The work begins in this room today. Let us engage in frank and constructive discussion. Let us also live here with a unified sense of purpose and a clear and actionable plan. The Commission is indeed fully committed to providing the necessary regulatory support and guidance. But we cannot do it without you. Let us work together, therefore, to make the T+2 transition a resounding success, which is a bedrock of the next level, a T+1, and indeed a proud milestone for our nation's financial markets. Thank you very much for your attention, and I indeed look forward to a very productive engagement, believing and trusting that in our collective resolve to make this market a global market, we're going to bring change to bear with us in the mood we want it to be. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and God bless you all.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Agama, for that encouraging message and for the SEC's continued leadership in driving industry alignment and preparedness. Thank you. We'll now move into the Trade Associations Roundtable, where key industry representatives will share insight on stakeholder readiness from their respective sectors. To begin, please join me in welcoming Mr. Solomon Onokwe, the chairman of Ashon, who will be sharing insight on broker-dealers' operational adjustment and readiness. Over to you, Mr. Onokwe. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Sam Onokwe, not Solomon. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Let me use the opportunity to thank the DG, our digital DG, for the great insight you have shared. The group CEO of the NGX, who also is the chairman of CSCS. And let me thank CSCS for what you have done in the transformation of our market. I want to thank particularly Mr. Jalo Waziri, the CEO, who has led the transformation we have seen. So thank you so much, Jalo. And permit me also to seize this opportunity to welcome my colleagues in the market and those from ICMR as well. It is indeed my pleasure to be part of this important gathering, one that marks a key milestone in the modernization of our capital market. The transition from T+3 to T+2 settlement cycle. I have been asked to speak on what this change means for the stockbroking community, and more importantly, how brokers must prepare, align, adapt, and deliver value to investors under the new model. I believe that our discussion today on the transition is both timely and forward-looking. In context, we know that settlement cycles lie at the very heart of capital market efficiency. They determine how quickly investors receive the proceeds of their sales and how soon buyers gain ownership of purchased securities. For years, the T+3 settlement model, where trades have finalized 3 business days after the transaction date, has served us well. But as technology, market sophistication, and risk management practices evolve, the global trend has unmistakably shifted towards shorter settlement cycles. Moving to T+2 means settlement will now occur 2 business days after trade date. This is not a mere technical adjustment. It is a structural transformation with far-reaching implications for liquidity, risk reduction, and market confidence. Across the world, shorter settlement cycles, T+2, and in some cases T+1, are now standard. The shift to T+2 is no longer a matter of choice. It is an imperative for competitiveness, risk mitigation, and operational efficiency. In our own market, as you know, as we all know, the Securities and Exchange Commission, as the DG has confirmed here today, announced that the equities market will transition from T+3 to T+2, effective 28 November 2025. This change calls for a concerted effort from all participants, particularly brokers, who form the critical bridge between investors, exchanges, and the clearing and custody ecosystem. The benefits of the transition has been spoken to by previous speakers, but as a reminder, we know that it will lead to that a shorter settlement cycle lowers counterparty credit and systemic risks. The less time between trade execution and settlement, the lower the chance of default. Improved liquidity, investors can access funds or securities faster, allowing them to reinvest, reallocate, or diversify with greater agility. Global alignment. Leading markets across the US, Europe, and Asia already operate on T+2. Our transition brings Nigeria closer to international best practice and enhances cross-border investment capability. Investor confidence, which has been spoken to, a faster settlement cycle signals an efficient and modern market infrastructure, one that reassures both local and foreign investors of our market strength and integrity. What does this mean for market participants? For brokers and dealers, the shift requires stronger back office systems, faster trade confirmation processes, and tighter synchronization with custodians, settlement banks, and depository infrastructure. Specifically, brokers are expected to conduct a comprehensive review of our systems, interfaces, and workflows to identify where T+3 assumptions are embedded and make necessary adjustments. We're also expected to quantify the operational and liquidity impacts under compressed timelines. We're expected to enhance reconciliation and post-trade support systems to handle the T+2 logic. We are also to maintain heightened post-transition monitoring to dictate and resolve bottlenecks swiftly. For investors, the transition promises quicker access to funds and securities and consequently, greater confidence in the efficiency of our market operations. For registrars, I'm sure the ICMR will speak more to this, and market infrastructure providers, it calls for continuous oversight, active engagement, and contingency planning. Fallback procedures should be clearly defined for instances of system downtime, settlement gridlock, or market stress, particularly in the early weeks following the go-live. Challenges and readiness. While the benefits are evident, the journey to T+2 is not without its challenges. Market participants must re-engineer internal processes to meet compressed timelines. Investor education and awareness must be deepened. Our systems must be robustly tested to minimize settlement failures. The good news for us, we believe, is that with coordinated efforts among regulators, exchanges, clearinghouses, and market operators, these challenges can be successfully managed and even transformed into opportunities for greater efficiency. In conclusion, the move from T+3 to T+2 represents a bold and necessary step in the ongoing modernization of our capital market. It will reduce risk, enhance liquidity, and strengthen our global competitiveness. More importantly, it reaffirms our collective commitment to building a resilient, investor-centric market. Brokers are at the heart of market intermediation. Our preparedness for this transition will determine whether we deliver to clients a seamless, resilient, and efficient market, or one riddled with friction. And I must say that we have done it before when we transited from the manual settlement to what we currently operate. It is therefore my expectation that all of us, we give due attention to this initiative, engage actively in the lead up to go live, and to communicate transparently with our clients as we have always done, in order to make the transition as seamless as possible. Let us not also, we're not, as brokers, we're not seeing it as a burden, but as an opportunity to modernize our systems, deepen our professionalism, and strengthen our market ecosystem. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Simon Okwe. That was such a practical and insightful overview. It's clear that readiness at the broker's dealer level is key to ensuring smooth settlement post-transition. Just a quick reminder to everyone, the chat box is open. Please continue to drop your comments and questions in the chat box. Up next is Mr. Babatunde Majiabe, T-Maj, as we fondly call him, President of Association of Asset Custodians of Nigeria. He's going to share the custodian perspective on readiness and industry insights from AACN. Over to you, T-Maj. Thank you.
Our appreciation as the asset custodian community goes to the DG for his support as well as guidance through this process. And I can say categorically that we've gotten the firm guidance and steer from the SEC in terms of ensuring that we have adequate time for this implementation to be done, and communication, I think, which the DG and the chairman of the CSCS did rehash in their comments as well. So on behalf of the Association of Asset Custodians, I'm honored to position the readiness of the 11 custodians and sub-custodian group within the capital market. For those who don't know, this is the biggest capital markets change that we're having in Nigeria in 2025. And it's no mean feat, because change such as this have a material way of shifting our market and positioning our market, as described by the CEO of the CSCS and the chairman of the CSCS in their earlier submissions. Different markets have done this in the past. India did it in 2023. The US, Canada, as well as Mexico did theirs in 2024. If you go into the details of the change itself, you will see that it is no easy change. It's a material change that we have to carefully guide through the process, so that we don't have operational issues, time constraints, cross-border settlement challenges, security lending and collateral management mismatching, as well as corporate action issues, etc. Mr. Sam spoke, Chief Sam spoke about the challenges that the brokerage firms might have in terms of technology and infrastructure gap. And I think some of these things that we're doing within the process of moving to and shifting to T+2 would surely ensure that everyone within the value chain make the required changes that make our market tick. As custodians, we understand the critical role we play in ensuring seamless post-trade operations. The ACN, like I said earlier, is fully ready and committed to supporting the T+2 dream. It's one that is entrenched into the Capital Market Master Plan 2015, and of course the ISA 2025. We have engaged extensively with all critical stakeholders, whether it's brokers, registrars, the CSCS, the depositories, and also investors, about our operational framework and how that will change as we move along. For those who don't know, asset custodians are specialized financial institutions responsible for safeguarding clients' financial assets, such as stocks, bonds, and other securities, and we ensure the smooth settlement of trades on behalf of our clients. And our clients are both foreign and domestic clients within the Nigerian capital market. This means we act as the backbone of trust and efficiency within the capital market ecosystem. Primarily, what we have done as part of the change is we've spent time working with different stakeholders and communicating what the timelines will be from when trade is executed to when detachment of shares is done, to activities such as getting activity report from the CSCS, getting brokers contract notes, and ensuring that we have client instructions so that we can do a pre-matching and also eventually matching before sending clients the required SWIFT messages to confirm that trades will be executed on the set date. And of course, on settlement date, we ensure that settlement is done, and we provide that feedback as well to all critical stakeholders. So all these activity sheets are things that we have carefully sat down to modify and ensure that as we're moving to a T+2 cycle, there's no material change that is impacted from both the client side and our side, rather than efficiency driving the process that we foresee going into the change in settlement overall. Overall, as a custodian community, I think we are ready. It's one that will require lots of sleepless nights as we go into final details. November 28th is just a few weeks ahead, but we are rest assured, based on the engagement we've had with all critical stakeholders, especially the brokerage firms, that as we continue the testing in the market, and we've done about 2 or 3 testing, and we've realized that these testings have been smooth and they've sailed through critically and not giving us any room for concern. But we are spending more time looking at the final details and ensuring that as we go along into the last dash. We do not foresee any challenges as custodians, and we know for certainty that November 28th will certainly be one that we will all be proud of. At this point, we also want to solicit more support, more rigorous support from all critical stakeholders. And I think the DG did mention it when he spoke earlier, because the finer details of the engagement will determine what would change, because everyone will have to shift slightly and materially as we get into the final dash. As we seek your opinion and seek your support, we are committing to ensuring that 28th November remains unshakable, and we do hope that in the next couple of weeks, going to before our go live date, we'll all come back on this call, possibly to share some of the wins that we've had by engaging rigorously in determining things that will shift and things that would not. But on behalf of the Association of Asset Custodians and all the 11 sub-custodians and sub-custodian banks that we have in Nigeria, I'm just giving a commitment that we are happy and we are very committed to the T+2 settlement cycle, and we are working towards ensuring that it goes smoothly. Safina?
Thank you, Timaj. Thank you so much for that. Very insightful. And I also want to, I'm actually glad that from custodian perspective, we're also ready to move to a T+2. Thank you. Now we move to Mr. Sheyi Owoturu, Chairman of Council, ICMR, who will be providing registrars' perspective on post-trade adjustments. Mr. Sheyi, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Safina, and good morning to the DG, the Chairman CSCS, the MD CSCS, my colleague, Mr. Simon Ukwe, and all the participants. I would first like to thank the CSCS for organizing this session. And I believe that my work has been made significantly simpler by not only the DG's speech, also the Chairman CSCS's speech, as well as the opening remarks of the MD CSCS. Now, the registrar community cannot do its work without the work that the CSCS does, as well as the work that the brokers do significantly. We rely almost totally on what both stakeholders do in the market. Now, whilst the introduction of T+2 or the migration to T+2 is expected to bring significant improvements and efficiency to our market and make it a lot more attractive, it also brings certain challenges that need to be managed proactively. I'm glad that the DG mentioned the issue of collaboration, which is very key. The other issue that we have identified is the issue of investor engagement, not only to explain what we're doing, but also to let them know the implication of what this means to them and for them in terms of how settlements will be done. So today, really, I feel like a man who has been waiting for a bride, really, and finally the bride has been delivered, because this has been long coming. But good enough that the CSCS, I'm not sure whether the CSCS was looking at today when it was investing in technology. Reg Connect, all the APIs have been developed to date. These are critical, really, in supporting, making sure that this transition to T+2, reducing the risk significantly to this transition. Because today, a number of the registrars operating are consuming APIs from the CSCS, data exchange is done primarily through RegConnect. This provides for me, sort of the foundation to ensure that this process is risk managed. So for us, really, the other issues that we want to look at is the fact that a shorter transaction cycle will likely put pressure on back offices. And therefore, for example, corporate actions that depend on register closures. The fact that there are shorter transaction cycles means that register closures for corporate actions will be tighter. It then means that reconciliations have to be done quicker to ensure that timelines are met. So in terms of operational readiness, registrars, not just registrars, all the entities within that value chain need to ensure that the back office are resilient enough to manage a shorter transaction cycle. The other element of what we should be looking at, and we have considered also, is the issue of onboarding. Good enough that our onboarding for primary offers or the primary markets are now digitalized, meaning that market entrants at the point of entry, we have the opportunity to digitally onboard them, one, collect all the required information to be able to process corporate actions. Where the challenge may be going forward may be secondary market transactions, where we depend largely on the community to ensure that that process is not only efficient, it also ensures that all of the relevant data to enable corporate actions are collected, and those the data elements are verified before during the process of onboarding. Now, what does that mean? Today, the challenges may also be around the type of data that we hold, especially for primary offers that happened maybe early in the 2000s, where a lot of the data collected from investors is not rich enough to be able to meet the demands of corporate action. So the challenge, therefore, is that as we move forward, how do we ensure that these legacy issues are dealt with? Because shorter transaction times suggest that reconciliations have to be faster for us to be able to meet these tighter deadlines. So in effect, we should be seeing, in my view, that going forward for registrars, I am not aware, though, that there are any registrars that today are not consuming RegConnect. If there are any, I'm not aware. It's important that that process is enhanced for all registrars to consume. The other area that I think may be relevant is to ensure that all of the APIs that the CSCS has developed to date, that we are also consuming them. What this does is that it enhances efficiency and ensures that there's limited human interaction in the trade processing and settlement cycle. I think that I will end here, but for now, but the other thing as we transition to T+2, the other thing that, I thought of as we transition is the issue of whether or not the CSCS, aside settling securities, can also begin to settle cash. Thank you.
Hopefully. Thank you, Mr. Woturu. Excellent insight, especially on the operational efficiencies and coordination needed between registrars and other market participants. Thank you. To wrap up the presentations, we'll hear from Mrs. Onome Komolafe, Divisional Head, Business Science and Clients, Business Services and Client Experience at CSCS PLC, who will be giving a technical overview and market readiness update. Over to you, Onome.
Thank you very much, Safina. Good morning to the DG, the chairman, my MD CEO, to the chairman of ASHON, the president of AACN, and the president chairman council of ICMR. I'll be taking the presentation on the technical readiness on behalf of the Settlement Cycle Review and Implementation Committee. I'll just quickly share my slides. I'm going to the presentation very quickly. The host should please allow me to share for this webinar. Thank you. Before I go into the presentation, I just want to recognize and appreciate every member of the Settlement Cycle Implementation Committee, who, while I am the one making this presentation, I would have to state that most of the work was done by members of the committee, and to just acknowledge the level of work, commitment, and sacrifice in getting us to this level of readiness. So I'll quickly take the presentation. In terms of introduction, this work started about 18 months ago. There's been a lot of collaboration within stakeholders in the markets in terms of looking at how ready we are, sensitization across the market. That was something that needed to be done across the various stakeholders and everyone who has some level of commitment and responsibility. Again, there's been extensive engagement as part of the sensitization, just to ensure that we have the level of readiness for November 28. I saw some comments in the chat room around, why are we moving to T+2? It's important to look at the limitations around the T+3 settlement cycle. The longer the settlement cycle, the increase in the level of risk associated, and not just with stock market. So the longer you have in terms of settlement, the higher the probability of a credit or settlement risk crystallizing. Also, part of the limitation is around capital and operational inefficiencies. You would not be maximizing capital if we continue to operate at cycles that are longer, when there are opportunities to actually reduce this cycle. Operational efficiencies also would also not be maximized using longer settlement cycles. And of course, we also know this dovetails into the impact on investor confidence when you are not efficient around capital, you are not efficient around the operations. And then the longer settlement cycle gives higher probability to exposure to market volatility, because the longer it takes to settle a transaction, the higher the probability to volatility exposures. Again, there's also very related to capital inefficiencies, the reduced liquidity in the markets. If you do not get settled on time, that also does not make the market as liquid as it should be. So a reduction in settlement cycle will definitely lead to more liquidity. And so today, this is part of the limitation we faced with a T+3 settlement cycle. Competitive disadvantage, both locally and internationally. Again, when you have a T+3 settlement cycle, there are other options that settle faster in terms of investment options. And so that puts the capital market, it puts the equity market at a disadvantage compared to other similar products, even locally. Internationally, as we're going to see that other markets, and I also note that the AACN president did mention markets that have moved on to shorter cycles. So again, we need to look at this disadvantage and see how
we can put ourselves in better stead, both locally and globally. Then there's also the higher counterparty risk. A longer tenure between trade and settlement increases risk, whether credit, whether settlement, whether counterparty risk, whether market volatility. Again, these are the limitations that have been recognized in respect of the current cycle that we have. Sorry, I'm trying to move the slides. I'll just have to reshare again. So again, just speaking from the previous slides, this speaks to the rationale for reducing the settlement cycle. We want improved market liquidity. We want market efficiency gains around liquidity, around operational efficiency. We also want to see a reduction in the risk in the market, counterparty, credit risk, market risk, enhanced investor confidence driven from this reduction in risk and also from the efficiency gains. Alignment with global standards. Most of the markets globally are going and shifting on to reduce settlement cycle. Again, the fifth one listed here is increased operational efficiency and enhanced market stability. These are gains that we know and we are confident that the market will benefit from as we move on to reduce settlement cycle. This just speaks to the journey my MD CEO had mentioned in terms of how it used to be, where trades were manual, clearing checks had to be used as part of the settlement process and all that. So you had a T+5 settlement cycle, moving on to a T+3 cycle, which is where we are now, and then T+2, which we are looking at from November 28th. And hopefully by next year, we probably would also be speaking about a T+1 cycle. This is the steering committee composition. As you can see, we have ensured that every participant in the market, every stakeholder is part of this steering committee. And again, I just want to put it on record that every member of this committee has contributed very, very much towards getting us to where we are, and just to appreciate the amount of work that has been done by committee members. The committee has working groups. We have 8 working groups that report directly to the steering committee. This is to make it more wieldy around work to be done, and also to ensure that the various technical aspects of the committee are well covered by each of the working group. So we have the legal working group with the responsibility of updating frameworks, rules, and every legal documentation around settlement cycle. Happy to announce that that committee work has been basically concluded, and we have a new framework around the T+2 settlement cycle. We have the awareness working group, which has responsibility, for example, for this webinar and every other engagement around, communications, stakeholder engagement. Again, very fantastic job by this working group. Risk working group has been able to identify, assess, and monitor risks that are associated with T+2. Again, and they've also proposed mitigation plans, again, drawing from what we currently have from a T+3 settlement cycle. We have the technical working group, which has worked with various stakeholders to align operational workflows, stockbrokers, registrars, custodians, settlement banks, just to make sure that everyone is ready for the new process. And then the testing committee that has conducted 3 market-wide tests again, to just make sure that by the time we're ready to go live, every process, every technical expectation is met, and there are no failures of any kind. The Go Live work group is the work group responsible to coordinate the work that is being done, especially from the testing, technical, and risk, to ensure that we are ready to go live. Also manage incidents and also ensure seamless execution of the transition. And then we also have the post-implementation work group. This would have responsibility for post-go live monitoring and capture any incidents or incident data and lessons learned from the work that is being done by all the working groups. And we have the project management, which has more or less overarching responsibility across all the working group, ensuring that there are no overruns around timelines, deliverable, and other tasks that are expected, and with direct reporting to the steering committee. This gives the steering committee progress overview. The first assignment was around stakeholder alignment across the markets. This was done to just ensure first that every stakeholder that is part of this process is represented on the steering committee, with assignments to ensure that even within their own constituencies, they are able to also get that alignment and bring feedback to the steering committee. Where there were issues of maybe disalignment, these were deliberated upon, and these matters were resolved. We also had a market assessment done in terms of the current process around T+3, and also to understand what was needed to move on to T+2. We also had a global practice review to look at other markets, to also understand how those markets have moved on to shorter cycle, whether it's a T+1 or a T+2. That assessment and that review was also done. There was also a stakeholder impact analysis in terms of the readiness of every stakeholder within the market. Again, this was driven by members of the steering committee within their various constituencies, with reporting back to the steering committee. And where there were gaps, these gaps were reviewed, and we ensured that there were closure of those gaps. Also, there was a risk, and this is very important, a risk review of what the risk will be around the shift to a T+2 cycle. And so where we are now is at the implementation, and this conversation we are having is part of the awareness that we are creating around implementation by November 28th to T+2. This slide speaks to the key milestones and timelines in terms of implementation. So we had the inauguration of the steering committee in May this year, gap analysis done across the various stakeholders from an operations and infrastructure view, to understand what the gaps are and to look to closing them. This has been concluded. Also to update the settlement framework. The settlement framework that we had in operation is the T+3 settlement framework that needed to be updated to a T+2 settlement process and the reporting requirements. That also has been concluded. Again, coming from the gap analysis that was done, system and standard operating procedure upgrades were noted, and every member of the committee was tasked to also engage within their own constituencies and also come back and ensure these upgrades have been done, just to ensure that the market is aligned to a reduction in cycle. Also, very happy to announce that we had a very successful testing and change management. The test results show 100% pass for all the tests conducted. Sensitization, while we have a date of October here, but the sensitization sessions will continue on social media and other platforms to ensure that the market is very much aware around the work that is being done, around the go live dates and what the expectations are for every member of the community. The implementation, the go live date is November 28th this year, and then there would be a post-implementation report by January next year. Again, this is a Gantt chart just reflecting what I had stated in the previous slide. This speaks to what the TOBI process is. What would it be like in T+2? Today we have T+3, but what we have here is to show what the T+2 process will be like. On the trade day, we will still have the same processes, the same tasks that we have on trade day today. There will be trade executed on the floor of the exchanges. The trade file with match trade will be prepared by the exchanges. Trade confirmations and closure will be sent to CSCS, and CSCS would distribute settlement reports, the for your information reports to all participants. On day T+1, settlement banks are to escalate unfunded positions for default resolution, escalation to CSCS, and also CSCS will send an irrevocable final settlement advice to all participants. We should note that in the current process of T+3, this advice would have been on T+2, but under the T+2 cycle, this final advice will be on T+1. Again, CSCS will upload the final advice onto the NIPS portal for net cash settlement. Ordinarily, this would have been a T+2 as we have today, but it's T+1. So we have a shift in some of these processes by 1 day to T+1. On T+2, NIPS will process the net cash settlement as instructed by CSCS on T+1. And NIPS would have received by T+1 and processed on T+2. CSCS will process the securities settlement, while the settlement banks and dealing member will process cash payments. And then CSCS will upload securities settlement advice onto the various stakeholder portals for the registrars and others. Again, these tasks that have been listed on T+2 are tasks today that are done on T+3. So we see that effectively we now have a shift of 1 day for most of these tasks, by a reduction by 1 day for most of these tasks. Now, this speaks to the gap analysis in terms of what I had explained in the previous slides by in the shift by 1 day. What would change? What are the things that ordinarily would change? It should be noted that it's not everything that will change. System functional change refers to functional change around user interface of the system. System technical change refers to back-end changes on the system. Timeline change, T+1, T+2, that's what it refers to. And then where there are no changes in process. So in terms of trade execution, there will be no change for trade execution, trade matching, preparation of the trade file, and trade confirmation. Those processes will still remain the same. We expect some level of system functional and system technical changes around the closure advice and trade confirmation between the exchanges and CSCS. There would be no change around end of trade process and the for your information settlement advice. Again, those would happen on T+1 as we currently have it today. In terms of escalation for unfunded position, which ordinarily is a T+2 for today, that will be T+1. So there's a timeline change for that. For the final settlement advice, there's a timeline change. The NIPS settlement advice, the net cash settlement, security settlement, these are timeline changes. Again, like I stated in my previous slides, these changes are moving by 1 day. So instead of happening on T+3 like we have them today, these timeline changes are going to occur on T+1. Settlement bank process cash transfers, dealing members process cash transfers, and post-settlement reporting. Post-settlement reporting today is T+4, but would now move on to T+3. So that's why we have stated that the workflow will be maintained. Only changes to processing timelines. Secondly, participants' responsibilities remain unchanged. And then there's a total reduction time from 96 hours when you include post-settlement reporting to 72 hours. Risk management and compliance framework. Again, we would maintain the current risk management that we have today, but with particular emphasis on the reduction in timeline. On T+0, trade execution and confirmation would still occur. Execution of trade, confirmation of trades to CSCS, and then notification by CSCS to various participants in the market, latest by 5 p.m. Escalation of unfunded positions will now be on T+1 by on or before 8 a.m. By the settlement bank, and or any unfunded account as at 3 p.m. on T+1 would be considered a default. Default resolution will kick in from T+2, and the current default resolution that we have will kick in from T+2 and not from T+3 as we currently have it in the market. It's important to note that there will be no changes to the penalty or fines for trade default. The settlement guarantee fund structure remains unchanged. The settlement governance structure also remains unchanged in terms of escalation and management of defaults. There would, as usual, as we have today, regular reconciliation between CSCS and post-trade members. Compliance reporting, very key, very important, would still continue by CSCS as we have it today. And the pre-funding rule, which is regulatory driven, remains in place to mitigate failed trades. This speaks to the key readiness areas. How ready are we? Technical readiness, we are very ready. In terms of the trading, clearing, settlement timelines. From the project overview that I had shared, we can see that everything listed, like we say in the project management meetings, we are on green on every of the lines, on every of the activities. There are no overruns, there are no defaults. From a compliance standpoint, the settlement cycle framework is ready and has been approved. Default management readiness, again, we had spoken to that around the revised framework and measures that have been put in place to mitigate the risk under T+2 cycle. Testing and validation, 100% pass mark. We conducted a market-wide testing across all the stakeholders in the markets. And I'm happy to announce that we had 100% pass on that. Market awareness is something that is continuing, is ongoing until November 28th, just to get everyone ready. There's webinars, social media updates, and we continue to have regular steering committee meetings to receive feedback and also to share results around the work that is being done. Just to speak a bit more in details around the tests that has been conducted. The objective of the test is to confirm that all systems and processes support T+2 settlement timelines across the market, across various stakeholders, validate that market operators can seamlessly execute, report, and reconcile trades under the new cycle, which we were able to confirm, and also ensure interoperability across platforms, from the CSCS to NIBs, to the custodians, the registrars. We also wanted to be sure that interoperability across this platform was not in any way encumbered, and also to identify and resolve issues prior to full market migration. The scope of the testing was around trade execution and reporting, clearing and settlement process to ensure that trades settle correctly within T+2, exception handling. There were tests around if there were failures, how would this be resolved? What is the process that we have? If the process that we have put in place was enough to manage those failures, those exceptions. Integration testing around API and data exchange between participants, and also to just verify the general market readiness, operational capacity across various stakeholders in the market. The testing methodologies there were test scripts that were advised to all participants. The test was conducted in a test environment, mirroring, of course, the production setup. Test participants were dealing members, custodians, settlement banks, registrars, CSCS exchanges, and NIPS. And each participant executed the predefined test cases and submitted the results. The tests were conducted 3 times just to ensure that just to have that assurance that the test was valid, and just to give the market that assurance. And we are very happy to report that these tests were successfully done. This is a summary of the tests results. We had 3 test phases. Like I said, we had 19 test scenarios. And of the 19 test scenarios, we had 19 passed scenarios and 0 failed scenarios. The 19 test scenarios are split into 2 pre-trade scenarios, 5 real-time scenarios, and 12 post-trade scenarios. And also very happy to announce that the settlement banks, NIPS, the dealing members, the exchanges, CSCS custodians, and the registrars all passed the tests. Thank you very much. Safina, I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I was trying to unmute. Thank you so much, Onome, for that comprehensive update and for the work the implementation committee continues to do to keep the market aligned. It's great to see how much progress has been made behind the scenes to ensure the market readiness. So we're going to move into question and answer session. And please keep your questions coming in. Continue to drop questions in the Q&A box, and we'll address as many as we can before we wrap up. So let's see some of the questions, please. Come in. So the first question I have here, it's for Mr. Sam, the chairman of Ashon. Timely delivery of contract notes remains a critical part of investors' confidence. How is Ashon addressing the gaps we have seen, particularly around ensuring that local and foreign investors receive their contract notes on trade dates, given that we are shortening the settlement cycle to T+2? Mr. Sam?
Thank you. Sorry, I was trying to unmute. Yeah, we have witnessed increased digitalization of our processes in the market today. And such that once trade happens, the investor gets an alert immediately. And investors now have access to their accounts directly. So with that, on our own too, as Ashon, we are collaborating to see how we can make enhance that for our members. We have engaged with CSCS. We're discussing that with them. And I think if we have a robust app, which we're working towards for the generality of our members, that becomes a lot more easier. So we don't have to be sending contract notes. The client gets his alert as trades happen and can generate his contract notes without coming to brokers. So it's
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you so much. So for what, how will that also be applicable to foreign portfolio investors, for example, in terms of the app that you mentioned? You know, foreign portfolio investors that they use custodians to settle their transactions.
Yes, of course, yes. That's applicable to all investors.
All investors. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Sam. So there's another question here, and this is for Mr. Shea. While we have seen a commendable progress towards achieving the T+2 milestone, there are still some concerns around delays in dividend payments by some market participants, maybe registrars. So from your perspective, what are the key factors behind these delays, and how can the industry work together to address them to strengthen investors' confidence?
Thank you, Celia. Safina, sorry. I mentioned during my presentation that we have certain legacy issues that may affect market efficiency. One of those issues is KYC. Prior to now, when the process of onboarding, especially in the primary market, was digitized, you had all manner of forms completed by investors. So today, some investors will tell you, oh, I have a BVN, why can't you pay me? Unfortunately, when you were buying the shares, there was no BVN. So today there's BVN. Then we have to be able to match the BVN you have supplied to your identity. So on my register, I have 10 people bearing the same name. Notwithstanding, I need to be able to confirm identity. So you would see delays around there. There are also what I may call the efficiency of the payment system. So registrars don't make payment using their own technology. They make payments using the technology available within the financial system. So you find sometimes that when you make a payment, it doesn't get there. I'm sure many of us have issues with when we're using POSs. You go to a shop, you buy an item, you want to make payment. You are debited, but the merchant doesn't get the value. And then you have to go to your bank to have the transaction reversed. Many of us also would have instances where using our mobile app, banking app, we try to transfer money to someone, to a third party, and the third party does not receive value, and then you have to escalate to your bank. Now, registrars rely on that same infrastructure to make payments. So I take an example of an Access Holdings with shareholders, almost 1 million shareholders, or a First Bank Holdings with about 1.1 million shareholders. So you are paying multiple people using that same platform that sometimes fails. So that's a challenge. It's not as though registrars deliberately decide not to be efficient. Now, the question for us is that what is the escalation mechanism? If, for example, an investor has reason to believe that a registrar has unjustly delayed their transaction, the ICMR is available as a trade group to investigate it and ensure that if it is found to be true, that registrar is brought to book. But it's unfortunate that most of these kind of complaints come at this sort of event. So it is after the fact. So I would like to advise that investors, when they feel that their entitlements have been unjustly delayed, they have recourse to the ICMR to investigate. The ICMR is empowered by regulation to investigate and deal with such issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Otuno, for that. So there's another question. This question goes to the president of AACN, Timaj. The question goes, can the custodians please directly engage their institutional investors to explain what its requirements will be from the investors to enable compliance with the migration? Timaj.
Safina, I think one thing and I did mention this when I provided a few views. Action is more important than a perfect plan. Yeah, we know that success comes from focused execution. So the time it takes for us to ensure that we have the right actions towards a smooth run is very, very important. And we, as the eyes and ears of investors that use the custodians in terms of investment, we've done a lot in terms of communication. And so answering Peter's question around how we're engaging institutional investors, I think we are engaging them in a very, very professional way. The Association of Asset Custodians, successfully hosted its flagship conference in London sometime in September. And the theme for this conference was Nigeria Recalibrating for Growth Post-Bold Reforms. I think this year's conference, we spoke largely about tax reforms, fiscal policy, capital market reforms, but we dwelled so much when we went into the capital market side and we're talking about settlement cycle shifts, etc. So again, it's just to say that we have engaged with our investors, we've engaged with institutional investors that use custodian groups to communicate what this change would mean, what the change in the timelines that will require for them to be able to, for us to be able to settle their trades are. I must say that for some investors, it's a bit steep. For some, it's easy. So again, depending on where the investors are investing from, if you're investing from the US, it's easier because you're 6 hours behind. If you're investing from the UK, same time zone, except during during winter period where the UK time is GMT and we are GMT +1. So again, the timing of where the activity of trading is occurring from an instruction perspective is very important. But it's just to say that we are engaging critically and our clients are aware. Most of the sub-custodians that you have, 11 of us in the market, have already sent what we call news flashes, engaging investors to tell them what these critical timelines will be, and working closely with them to understand what the challenges will be at their point within their operational basis. Because the truth is, some of them will have to change their systems, some of them will have to inform their underlying clients, etc. And as such, we don't want a situation where we go ahead with an implementation. At the end of the day, we realize that we've cut off a significant part of the market from investing in Nigerian securities. So again, we're saying that we're engaging and we've engaged and we'll continue to engage. There's no stopping to engaging with institutional investors that use custodian banks in settling their equity trades within the capital market. Thank you.
Thank you, Timach. So there's another question there's a question actually from Salman Abdurrahman. This question should go to CSCS. Onome, please, is it due to the fact that Nigeria still operates on T+2? No, let me rephrase. Please, is it due to the fact that Nigeria still operates on T+2? The reason why, sorry, this question is for Ashon. So please, is it due to the fact that Nigeria still operates on T+2, the reason why brokers don't provide highly interactive trading platforms like TradingView? Does this migration have anything to do with the fact? That's for Mr. Sam, please.
Can I get the question clearer? Is it due to...
Okay, I should repeat it?
Yes, please, if you don't mind.
Okay, so please, is it due to the fact that Nigeria still operates on T+2, the reason why brokers don't provide highly interactive trading platforms like TradingView? Does this migration have anything to do with the fact?
Okay. Well, most people have integrated some kind of robo-advisors and decision support in their systems, and not everyone has done so. But these are all available. Trading views are available in the market. It's not provided by brokers. It's provided by some research outfits, and most of our members have their own research outfits that support decisions in trading decisions. And so what we are currently operating is T+2 and has nothing to do with not a T+3, not T+2. And we hope that as we advance in digitization, some of this will be made available. But certainly, because we are operating T+3, that we don't provide trading view. They have access to a trading view as well, without even using the, without going to the brokers. They have access to trading view.
Okay. So that answers your question, Abdulrahman. So this question to Onome, as part of your testing options, did you also consider loading testing and regression testing?
Thank you, Safina. So I think I'd responded, but I'll still respond. Yes, we did have regression tests done. I'd spoken to the fact that we had this test done in 3 phases, and so regression test was part of that. But in terms of load testing, just to quickly state that it's the current systems that we have across the market that we're still using, and the transaction volumes are the same. We expect, of course, that a reduction in cycle would increase market volume, but we don't think that is in the immediate. So there were no tests around load testing around at this time, but regression tests were done. We expect that the level of transaction would remain the same in the initial instance, and then possibly in the months coming, we would see some increase around the volume as a result of the reduction in cycle.
Thank you, Onome. So I think we have a lot of questions for the registrars, and Mr. Shei, maybe if there is like a link or like a contact that we can also just put in here, because there are a lot of personal questions for the registrars that the participants needed to be addressed, so that we can also drop it here. Thank you. So, Onome, another question for you. While T+2 upgrade is a welcome development, could you please explain more about what is being done to ensure critical national technological infrastructure is improved to support this tech-enabled initiative, as presently the broadband penetration is around 45%?
So I am not sure that we can speak around the upgrade in national infrastructure at this time, because we are all users of this infrastructure. So I'm not sure CSS will be in a position to speak about that. But I can say that in terms of the technology deployed by CSS, is best in market, best in class, not just around T+2, but around the business that we do in CSS. So I think that assurance is very important, and that's very clear in terms of the level of APIs interfaces that CSS has deployed in the market in the recent years. Thank you.
Thank you. So just one more question, the last question for this webinar. The question is from Amos Bello. Please, if a broker mistakenly commits error trade, is there still room for trade reversal? If yes, how long? If no, what do we do? Thank you.
Okay, so the rules for trade reversals and error trades still remain. It's very important to note that the definition of an error trade is not exactly as defined by CSCS, but as defined by the extant exchange where the trade has occurred. And there are various rules across each of the exchanges around the definition of and the recognition of error trades. And so to answer the question directly, yes, there will be recognition of error trades. In terms of the timelines, the exchanges would also need to advise that in line with the new timelines for settlement. So yes, there will be error trades recognition, and the timelines will be as advised by the various exchanges.
Okay, thank you. I think I just have one more. I thought that should have been the last one, but quick one. This is for Temi. I don't know, is Temi still there? Is Mr. Popola still there? I'm trying to
No,
see.
Stephanie is not.
Sorry? He's not. Okay. So, okay. Thank you so much, everyone. And it's actually an insightful and engaging session this has been. I want to extend my sincere appreciation to all our speakers for their thought-provoking contributions and to every participant who joined us today, whether here on Zoom or following live on CSCS YouTube channel. As we continue this transition to T+2 settlement, one thing is clear: collaboration remains our greatest strength. Together, we are building not just a more efficient settlement cycle, but a more resilient, transparent, and globally competitive capital market. Today's discussion has shown the collective commitment of our market, from regulators to operators, trade associations, and clients, all working hand in hand to ensure a seamless and successful migration. Your feedback remains invaluable to us, so please take a few moments to complete the survey that will be shared after this session. On behalf of CSCS PLC and the Implementation Committee, thank you once again for being part of this journey and for your unwavering partnership in driving market transformation. Let's keep the momentum going, stay engaged, and continue to champion excellence across our ecosystem. Thank you all for joining, and from all of us here, have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you once again, Safina. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.